All right, dropping a review for Drop. That's what we're doing now. So, what is Drop about? Who's going to drop? What's going to drop? I don't know. Let's find out, starting with the IMDb plot. A widowed mother's first date in years takes a terrifying turn when she's bombarded with anonymous threatening messages on her phone during their upscale dinner, leaving her questioning if her charming date is behind the harassment. All right. Uh, Another new film here. So, definitely some twists and turns in this one. So, I will try to really make sure that I don't give anything away because I think this is one of those films you want to enjoy the twists and turns. And if I spoil that, you're not going to enjoy the movie, and you are probably not going to be too happy with me. So with that, make sure that I pace myself here and try to keep this on point. I feel like I've been promoting this one for a while. You know, we received tons of stuff about the film and shared. Lots of some clips from the movie, some clips from the premiere. We did screening pass whatever. So I feel like I've been sharing this one a ton. So it's good to finally have gotten to see the film and see what it is I've been sharing all this time. With that, this is not a horror film. This is more of a thriller. Maybe a little bit of action. Obviously, there's mystery going on here. So it's not a slasher or ghost, supernatural, anything like that. This is more of a regular film with a twist and so forth. So again, I'll try to keep this spoiler free and not go too far into it. But the basics here is kind of what it said here. We get introduced to a woman here. She hasn't gone on the dating scene for a while. She's you're going to see a scene from her past. With her ex-husband that apparently didn't end well, and that's gonna kind of play a role more of in herself and kind of her feelings throughout the entire movie. And, it's going to flash back to that a couple of times. So it's just a little bit to add to her character. But really, that's where she is in her life. She's finally ready to kind of move on from that. She has a young son and she leaves him behind. I'm not sure if the person she left behind, I remember if it was her sister or a very close friend or just a babysitter. I don't know. But a very good, babysitter indeed. And, kind of leaves him at home with her to go out on this first date with someone who I believe she's not met. I guess they met online through an app. So you have that. And she gets to the place that they're going to meet first, and it is a really nice place. I don't know how exclusive it is, but it is at the top of a building or so forth. And, it's high up there, and she gets there. She wants to go to the bar to start before her date gets there and kind of wait for him there. And as she does, you kind of get the lay of the land. You get to see a little bit of the restaurant, the layout. She meets the bartender. There's going to be a couple of characters and people she kind of bumps into or sees kind of there. The hostess. So you're going to kind of see some people that are around or going to be around in the restaurant, while she is on her date. Her date eventually arrives. They go sit down. And even when she was at the bar, she starts getting a message or two on her phone. But, whatever, not really a big deal. She kind of looks at it, goes away. She finally, the date comes, he apologizes, he's running a little late. They take their table's against the window there. They're kind of going through the introduction and weird, first date thing where, they kind of know each other from the app or talking, whatever, but, this is the first time face to face, so they're kind of going through that thing, and to the added, obviously, for her it's the first time in a while, and him, he's maybe not in a place where he's done this a lot, or maybe he wanted to give up, but he still managed to be there for this date. So as the stress of that situation starts, she's continuing to get these messages, and they're a little odd and throwing her off as she's trying to get situated. They have a waiter who's a first time waiter, and he's going to be a little bit of maybe your comic relief here. He's slightly on the funny side, nothing overdone, but he is a little bit of your maybe comic relief here. But then the boyfriend, or I should say the date, the guy is going to finally kind of catch on that she's continuing to look at her phone and these messages, and he mentions that it's something that maybe somebody in the restaurant or nearby is just either maybe messaging somebody else and she's getting it, or that people play these kind of prank things on people all the time, so she shouldn't really be concerned. And she's not really, she obviously knows how to use her phone, but maybe not super tech wise, so he's showing her one or two things, and they're kind of discussing it, and so it's a little bit of a thing to start, but then the messages start getting a little bit more intense and so forth, and a little bit more direct, and a little bit more with telling her what she needs to do, until she finds out that the person sending her messages wants her to do stuff and listen to him, and because there's somebody inside her house now and has taken, knocked out the babysitter, and now basically has her son hostage in the house. So she is basically now with no choice but to listen to whoever this person is on the phone, because there's a man in her house who now can hurt her son at any moment that he's given the order to. So we have this situation, kind of the suspense and tension then kind of picks up. She's going to obviously do what, you would think she would do, try to find a way out of the situation. But obviously this person on the other side has their bases well covered, and basically kind of foils her at every move. So I don't want to say too much more. I don't want to spoil anything else in this movie to come, but that's kind of the situation here. And you might think that, oh, okay, well, we've kind of seen a movie where somebody is forced either by phone or through some kind of message or whatever to do things that they don't want and try to get out of a situation because a loved one is being held hostage, or something else is important, that is of importance to them, could be injured or hurt or disappeared because of somebody, whatever. So this situation is not totally unfamiliar, but I would say that they make the most of the situation they set up. Like I said, she's obviously going to try to get out of it. It's not really going to work. They keep it very interesting. I think both the characters and both the actor and actresses that play this couple here do a pretty good job. Obviously the film leans a little bit more on her. It is about her, but just kind of in his reactions, and it is a date, and kind of trying to stay within how you would be like on a date, but the other person is kind of on their phone the entire time, and kind of accepting of the excuses and then not, and they seemed like it was pretty natural, except obviously for the craziness that is kind of slowly unfolding. So I thought they handled that pretty fairly well in keeping it very realistic. I don't think the film kind of goes too far out of its bounds until the major action hits in the final act. Um, but I think, let's see how I didn't see how long it was. It is, yeah, just past an hour and a half, hour and 35. So yeah, they didn't overextend it either. I think they kind of get you right into it. They get her to the restaurant fairly right away, and kind of jump right into it. So they move at a good pace, and I think they keep that suspense kind of building and moving in a good direction, and the tension. Um, Obviously, they're going to leave the door open for you guys to kind of try to figure out, can you figure out what's going on here? Um, I think, you might find out certain things. I think the real reason all this is happening was pretty interesting, and I think that is something that you're not going to know that's coming, because I unless I really missed it somewhere, that's not really explained anywhere in there. So not that it's gonna mess you up and something to be mad at, but that's not something to catch. I think figuring out who's doing this is something that's open to you to find and see and look for, and that's it. The reasoning is probably not for you to really know until it is told to you. The final act is really ratcheted up, and they do a good job. Again, I don't think they overextended anything too, except for maybe one little bit of a how should I say hang on situation that might have been probably the part where maybe the film pushed probably the furthest out of maybe bounds, where everything else seemed kind of to a real situation. But again, that's just the height of the drama of the film and whatever, and why not give you a little bit of that in there to for some excitement. Obviously again, the suspense and the tension is obviously hits the high ceiling here in the third act, and gives you some excitement, and finally pushes the pedal down at the end. So I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was good, a very good thriller. Again, I think they hid the obviously the whoever it is that's doing this, they hit it pretty well. I think, like I said, they're going to give you the choices, and you just have to choose. I liked where they went with it. It made sense. It didn't, kind of be like, oh, but that doesn't make any sense. No, it made sense in what was going on. That was the person. Obviously, like I said, the reasoning you're probably not gonna get. Is not there until you're basically told, so you don't really have to worry about that. But I said, there is, obviously that's a little bit of a twist. There's a little bit of another twist, and so forth. But I just thought it was just a very solid movie. Just a good thriller. Like I said, this is not really a horror film, but if you're looking for a thriller, and this is definitely a good one. Like I said, the actress here does a really good job. The main ones. Even the other characters who might not play a huge role in the film, I thought they were well enough. Like I said, the waiter is kind of funny, and even some of the other characters you meet, even the babysitter, whoever ended up very limited role, but even though they were good in it, so I think solid acting all around. But I thought they played it out really well. Giving you a little bit, trying to get out of it. And just, the things that went on in the restaurant, I think, it could be one of those things where you kind of get concerned with, oh, this is going to, this is just not getting here quick enough for me, or boring, or I've kind of seen this before. But I think it manages by the end, it will do enough for you that you'll like it. I think, what did I see here? Yeah, I guess see, it has about 6,200, I guess, ratings here on IMDb. I thought maybe it'd be a little bit higher as far as ratings, but I guess not as many people saw it as I thought would have seen it. But still, a 6.5 out of 10. So I think actually that seems a little bit maybe under. I think on Twitter that I got the impression that people kind of liked it a lot. So maybe that's kind of like maybe in the ballpark, I would say. But yeah, I don't have any major complaints with what was happening here and what's going on. I think, if you guys again are looking for a thriller or something, not horror, I think this is a good one for you. The action finally hits at the end, and it was good and well done as well. So nothing really to really complain about. So with that, I think I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it 4 pools of blood. Why not? Like I said, nothing to complain about here. And really enjoyed it. Enjoyed some of the twists and turns in it. Again, I think at the end of the day, nothing hugely original. You've kind of seen some of this before. Just maybe this is just its own situation and so forth. And maybe a combination of a couple of things you may have seen before, and just putting it together in this certain unique situation. So with that, again, I think it's going to be 4 pools of blood. Why not? I enjoyed it. So with that, horror score, that's 4 pools of blood out of 5. Horror score reviews.blogspot.com is where you can find all of my reviews written in video, certainly mostly video reviews for a while now, so you can like and subscribe and do everything else that everybody wants to do here on YouTube. But if not, no worries, it is okay. I thank you for your time, regardless, whether it's on the reviews, on the shorts, or anywhere at promotes. Thank you guys regardless. Twitter, Facebook information out below, so you can follow there as well. Talk about this movie, other movies, horror movies, thrillers, and definitely in the comment section once you guys kind of catch this movie, your thoughts. You like it, not? Did you enjoyed it? Or was it just not for you? That's fine. Please feel free to let me know. So with that, I will catch you on the next review, horror fans.